Oh my goodness, Arkansas did not get Grant Nelson. Are you serious? Are you kidding me? This staff sucks. NIL sucks. Everybody's trash. Arkansas staff needs to be fired. They should be ashamed of themselves. Everybody just is going crazy because they didn't get Grant Nelson. His team suddenly you're not going to be any good. Shut up and listen. Arkansas is going to be just fine.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. I am your host, John Nabors. I am also the host of Out of Bounds. You can catch every weekday afternoon from 1 to 4 on 103.7 The Buzz and 103.7thebuzz.com. Hope everybody's having a wonderful Tuesday. And hopefully you like that opening because I felt like I'm being a little bit over the top and over dramatic, which I never am that. But I'm sure that most of you have heard the news and saw the news that actually broke yesterday afternoon about Grant Nelson and how he is taking his talents, or reportedly at this point, you know, he has not made it official, but reportedly is taking his talents to Tuscaloosa to go play for Alabama and Nate Oates. And from what I understand, it's like, you know, it's not being official from him, but it's all but a done deal, and Arkansas has moved on. And we'll talk about that as far as Arkansas and what the next step that they do. But for those of you that have maybe not been following along, Grant Nelson was the player that a lot of people wanted from North Dakota State. He was 6'11", 235 pounds, averaged about 19 points, 9 rebounds a game, took official visits to Arkansas and Alabama, and it looks like he is going to be going to Alabama, which I love. Like, I see some of these reports from people that are like saying like, oh, you know, this one makes sense. And it's like, you know, it's not a surprising move for him. It's almost like if Arkansas was just like, oh, well, they didn't, it wouldn't have made sense for him to go there. I'm like, okay, well, I don't know why would you think that? Why would you think it wouldn't make sense for Nelson to have him on the squad or to be on the squad for Arkansas, or Musselman to want Grant Nelson on the squad, whatever it may be. But it cracks me up, not to go on a tangent, but it just cracks me up how people just like try to make it always about them and their reports. Be like, well, you know, I knew about this. I knew about this beforehand. And if you would have been following me, you would have known that I would have said these things. Like, okay, I'm sure you did. But either way, I think it's official. I think it's done deal. I think he's going to Alabama. It's pretty much over with. And Arkansas's got to turn the page. Now, yesterday, this actually broke during my radio show at around 3:30 in the afternoon, roughly. And it was, you know, something that I wouldn't say was shocking, but it was certainly disappointing at the time, because it's like, hey, you thought you could get a really great player to be added to an already really great team that Arkansas is going to be putting forth. And, you know, the fact that he goes to Alabama, you know, again, I can see some of the reasons why he would want to go to Alabama. And I think the main thing is that at Alabama, he's going to be the guy. Because Alabama doesn't have that great of a team on paper, talent-wise. Like, they got a few transfers, they got a few recruits, but, you know, last year's Alabama team, that was like the team. That was the team that was supposed to do it all, and they didn't even get close. Who would have guessed? But they needed some help. And so with what Grant Nelson is going to be able to provide for Alabama, I'm sure, talked to him about being a featured part, being the guy, being the dude that they're going to run the entire offense through. And it was probably something that was very alluring to him, because that's kind of what he's been used to when he was at North Dakota State. Where at Arkansas, being honest about it, it's like you can't offer him that because you got so many great players already going to be on the team. And of course, Trevin Brazile looks like the key feature guy there too. So when you kind of put it into perspective that way, it just makes sense. But I don't know. I laugh at the reaction. And that's what my whole opening was about, was just the ridiculousness of some fans that think that, you know, well, there goes all this. There goes that championship. There goes all, you know. I've said it before, and I will say it again. I even tweeted about this. Arkansas, regardless of if Grant Nelson came here or not, is still a top 15 team. This is still the most talented roster overall that Eric Musselman's had. And I love how people tries to, like, they're just so mad that they, like, I'm talking about Razorback fans. They, like, try to put their own twist on it. They're like, look at all these guards and they have no size underneath. How could it's stupid. They have nobody. There's just a bunch of guards and big men, but there's nobody in between, and it's just off balance. It doesn't look right. Blah blah blah. It's like, okay, well, folks, you gotta look at it from the depth part of it, and also realizing that Muss only plays like 7-8 guys anyways. So just keep that in perspective. But I get why Razorback fans got their hopes up, because there was a lot of reports feeling like that he was going to be leaning towards Arkansas. And, I felt like for a while there that he was going to be a Razorback. But, time goes on and things change. And I think the deal with, Sean with Ron Holland, back-to-back things where you didn't get those guys, makes Razorback fans pretty upset, because it's like you don't want just your own pile of money. You want everyone's money. Like, you want everybody's stuff. You don't want anybody else to have anything else. You want it all. You're selfish about it. I am too, and that's what you should be as a fan. You want the best players, and that's essentially what was going on with Razorback fans and Grant Nelson. But here's the way I'm going to put it, and I don't even know if this is going to make sense, but I'm going to try it out. It made sense in my mind, and I don't know if I'll be able to put it forth and make it make sense to all of you listening in or watching in or whatever it may be. But here's the thing about Grant Nelson and him going to Alabama and him not coming to Arkansas. I compare it to barbecue. And what I mean by that is that for those of you who are listening to this podcast, I guarantee you love you some barbecue, right? Well, there are some barbecue that is better than others, right? There's probably some restaurants you like going to, certain types of meats that you like more, whatever it may be. But you can always tell the difference between amazing barbecue and just good barbecue. Here's what Grant Nelson is. Grant Nelson is barbecue sauce, okay? There are some barbecue that has to have barbecue sauce to make it good, and you know what I'm talking about, where you get it and you're like, this is great and all, but I'm going to have to just douse it with nothing but barbecue sauce to make it good. And that's what Grant Nelson going to Alabama is, basically. Alabama's just average barbecue. It's fine. It's good pulled pork. It ain't bad. But you got to be able to put a lot of sauce on it to even make it relevant and make it good, and even to call it good barbecue. Where Arkansas, on the other hand, Arkansas is great barbecue. Amazing barbecue. The brisket, the fall off the bone, the everything that you possibly want when it comes to barbecue. It doesn't need any sauce. However, a little sauce here and there makes it even better. Not too much, though, because then you'll just kill all the greatness of it all. But just a little bit of barbecue sauce makes it pretty good. But hey, there's no barbecue sauce around. You're still going to eat it. It's still going to be incredible. That's the difference. Grant Nelson's just that barbecue sauce. Sure, it would have added in a little bit to Arkansas and would have made it a little bit better. It would give a little kick. But Alabama, the only way that they could be even classified or considered good barbecue is they had to have all the sauce. Grant Nelson is that guy. Alabama needed Grant Nelson a lot more than Arkansas needed Grant Nelson. Because without Grant Nelson, Arkansas is still a top 15 team. Arkansas is still going to be just fine. Arkansas is going to have plenty of pieces to go around. Arkansas is going to have plenty of scoring. They're going to have all of the experience. They got everything going for them. Where in Alabama's terms, and if you talk to most of the experts that cover college basketball, even like a guy like Jeff Goodman, I saw he tweeted out perfectly that Alabama was barely a top 25 team, if at all. But the addition of Grant Nelson has made him into a top 20, top 15 team, maybe. So that's what it comes down to. So don't be concerned about not getting Grant Nelson. Don't be concerned about not getting Ron Holland. Would it have been nice? Of course. Of course it wouldn't have been. Would I have loved to have had one or the other or both? Absolutely. You think Eric Musselman would have loved him too? Absolutely. So let's not kid ourselves. But to act like that this is just well, there goes the season, we're not going to do anything this year, is stupid. I get it's reactionary. I get it's emotional. I know you get your hopes up just like so many fans do when it comes to these things. But folks, it's okay. Arkansas is still in great shape. They have so much to look forward to. And they still have an open scholarship, which we'll talk about here in a second as far as maybe the directions that they should go. But overall, I'm fine with it. That's why I wasn't too bummed. That's why I'm not just sitting here saying, man, Grant Nelson, because here's also another thing too. Like, Grant Nelson comes in. What does that take you to? Like, as an Arkansas Razorback team, the roster that they have now, what does that take you to? Like, did Grant Nelson mean the difference between winning or losing a national championship? Did Grant Nelson mean the difference between going to the Final Four and going to the Sweet 16? Maybe. But I still feel like in any given circumstance, one player like a Grant Nelson should never be the difference in winning one more game in the NCAA tournament or not. What should come down to is the team, the chemistry, the ability, the whole thing with them becoming great at the right time when it comes to March Madness. To me, that's what's most important. So, wish him nothing but the best of luck. I'm sure he'll go over there and do just fine over in Alabama. Just make sure if anybody calls you up to bring anything over to the downtown area, check your back seat. You never know what'll be back there. Oh, man, I'm terrible. We'll talk a little bit more, though, about where Arkansas goes from here in just a second. First, folks, I got to tell you about FanDuel right now with the NBA Finals going on. It's electric, and I know that a lot of people love to win some money when it comes to betting on sports. Well, right now, with you new customers out there that have yet to try FanDuel, you get the no-sweat first bet up to $2,500. It's $2,500. It's not a joke. $2,500 back in bonus bets if your first bet does not win. It's awesome. And you got the NBA playoffs with the finals going on right now. You got MLB. You got all the different sporting events happening, and you can get it all with FanDuel. There's no better place for all the playoff action than America's #1 sportsbook. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get a no-sweat first bet up to $2,500. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, moving on into the next segment of the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. So, Arkansas did not get Grant Nelson. They still have a scholarship opening, and they need to use it. Well, right now, it's kind of a slim pickings when it comes to the transfer portal and who's in it. And, it's like, can they just go from one great player in the portal to another great player in the portal? Maybe they can do that. It's a very complicated situation. But overall, I think Arkansas is still going to try to find somebody that's a big, when it comes down to it. Just maybe go into the front court. And I brought this example up many times before, and I think I'll do it again just because sometimes you need the silver linings, or maybe you just need a little bit of a pick-me-up if you're frustrated by the way things have gone and maybe not get the players that you all wanted. But wouldn't it be something if Arkansas could do kind of what they did a few years ago late in adding a particular player? Like, I bring up Jalen Tate all the time. That first team that went to the Elite Eight for Arkansas was a really good team. A team that had some scoring with Moses Moody and true freshmen that played above their heads like Jalen Williams and Devo Davis. You had Justin Smith, who was a freak athlete. You had, I guess Desi Sills coming off the bench was in a good role. You had J.D. Note, who was also a great scorer. You knew that coming off the bench there too. You had some good pieces, but Jalen Tate to me was always the X factor that maybe didn't get talked about enough. Experienced guy, grad transfer from Northern Kentucky, came right in. He was a tall guard, bought into the system, bought into Arkansas, bought into Eric Musselman, and did a phenomenal job. And he started almost every game, if not every game. There were times that he could hit threes when he needed to. He hit clutch free throws, especially against Kentucky on the road. I'm sure you remember that game. Had to hit both of those, and he nailed them. Was great defensively, averaged like over 5 assists per game. Just a solid overall player. Well, people forget he was added really late into the process of the team. Now, is it the exact same circumstance that Arkansas finds themselves in? No. But my point is that sometimes when you go into the portal, or if you get a grad transfer or whatever it may be, and if they're going after a big or at least a front court player, you can sometimes find a guy that may not be NBA caliber, may not be all SEC caliber, but just a solid player. Solid guy. You know how many players Arkansas has had in their history, especially on teams that were really good or at least pretty good, that weren't all SEC selections? Like, you think about Adis Toney. You remember him? The dude was incredible at defense, and he was a huge factor in what they were trying to do and as a team. And he doesn't get talked about enough, but he was really good. Stanley Amude. He's a 6'8" guy that, didn't get all SEC honors or anything like that, but a really solid player. And that's kind of how I feel about it with what Arkansas could have. If they go for a big or at least go for a front court guy, they could get a player that is just solid, and that's fine. That's all they need him to be. It's just solid. Get a guy that goes in there and as a big man and averages 8 points, 4 rebounds a game. I'm fine with that. An experienced guy that maybe has gone up against good competition, good head on his shoulders. Maybe he's really good at locking down defensively. Maybe, I don't even know if you need an offensive player that needs to go out there and score points. You need a guy that can get rebounds. Block shots, play good defense. I think you could find just one of those type of role players in the most unusual places. So that's kind of the direction that I feel like Arkansas is going to go in. I would be shocked if they went and got a name or if any sort of name popped up that everybody was all for. Like, I don't think that would be the case. But they don't need to have one of them. They just need somebody that'll do a good enough job when their name is called on to step up and make some plays. So I think it'll be all right. Arkansas is going to be just fine. We'll talk a little baseball and some transfer news here on the other side of the break, so stay with us on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, so final segment of the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. Razorback baseball had some portal news with somebody entering into the portal from Arkansas and somebody coming to Arkansas out of the portal. And both of the names that are here, at least, I won't say, I say this. Starting with the player that's leaving, Harold Cole, who was shortstop. He played in 32 games, started 19 games this season, and he still has one season of eligibility remaining. He entered into the portal because he filled in for Peyton Holt when Peyton Holt got injured against TCU at that second base position. He played shortstop as well as third base. He's a pinch hitter. Batted .232, hit 4 home runs, 7 doubles, drove in 22 runs and 82 at-bats. Also had a 98.5 fielding percentage while playing primarily at shortstop. He enters into the portal, which, I'm not thrilled that he's in there, but I understand it. At that shortstop position, it looks like, and I guess we'll find out hopefully here soon, that Walker Martin, who's a really good freshman high school player that is one of the top prospects in the country, he's committed to Arkansas. He's a shortstop. If he's going to be coming on campus, he's going to be a huge player for Arkansas. And I think that, they might go that direction. Or maybe they move Peyton Holt over there if Peyton Holt stays at shortstop. There's just a lot of options, but I just don't think that Harold Cole necessarily plays into what they're trying to do next season. So I get it. I wish him nothing but the best of luck, and hopefully he finds a place that he can, succeed and maybe find him a good stop. But on top of that, as much as it may have been unfortunate that Harold Cole moved on, Arkansas got what I believe, a very, very significant pickup out of the transfer portal. Texas Tech catcher Hudson White. It was originally from Joe Doyle of Future Stars Series. They first reported it. He has not announced his official decision, but it looks like this is the case. And this is according to D1 Baseball. He entered into the portal, and as a sophomore this past year, he was voted honorable mention All Big 12 by league coaches, where he batted .296 with 11 home runs, 10 doubles, and 49 RBIs while scoring 39 runs. The catcher did that. The catcher batted .300. I like that. Also, while he's behind the plate, Hudson White fielded .977, as well as 10 pass balls. Base stealers were successful 58 of 68 attempts against him, as we know that's always a very important thing. But on top of that, White was the Big 12 Freshman of the Year and a collegiate baseball freshman All-American back in 2022. In addition to catcher, he also started as a DH, first baseman, second baseman, and third baseman. So he can kind of do it all. But it looks like he's the catcher. So, Arkansas got a big one. And we know that catcher, not that the catching position was bad this past year, especially when it came to Hudson Polk or Parker Rowland or anything like that. But you got to have a catcher that can bat over 200. And you just didn't have that this past year. I think Parker Rowland finished batting like 176, something like that. So it's not something you want to see. So what do? You go out and you get a legitimate, bona fide dude that bats 300 and hits 11 home runs and also happened to be the Big 12 Freshman of the Year just 2 years ago. So huge get for Arkansas. Huge get for the Razorback baseball team. And I know that they're not done yet. They're trying to work the portal. They're trying to work the high school class to see how many people actually come into Arkansas that maybe jumped in to commit, but then, the MLB draft. Like, there's just a lot of moving parts to go around with this whole thing. But still, Arkansas's in great shape. They got a great addition there, and I think there's reason to be excited. Many reasons to be excited about next year, but they're certainly off to a really good start when it comes to adding some big-time transfers. Appreciate everybody listening in to Locked On Razorbacks podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or on Google Play. You can also get after me on Twitter at BuzzJohnNabors for any questions, comments, concerns that you may have. Keep it going from there. Same podcast time, same podcast channel tomorrow afternoon. Have a great day, everybody. We'll see you then.